If you had asked me for most of 2023 which folding electric bike is the best bang for your buck, there would have been no question in my mind it would have been the Lectric XP 3.0. But as of October of 2023, that idea was kind of pushed a little bit by Ride1Up with the release of the Portola. The Portola takes Ride1Up styling and spin and applies it to the folding e-bike. Not only does Ride1Up push their styling, but they also came in with a little bit of a price drop. So which folding e-bike is the better choice? The new kid on the block, the Ride1Up Portola, or the Lectric XP 3.0, which as the name implies is on its third version of the bike? Let's find out. Hey everyone, JT from Ebike Escape here, and in today's comparison, we're going to take an objective look at the Lectric XP 3.0 and the Ride1Up Portola. Now, this comparison was put together by Ryan and myself here at Ebike Escape, as we both kind of have some different experience on the Ride1Up Portola and the XP 3.0. So with our powers combined, hopefully we can give you guys the best look and information so you can make a great educated purchase and not regret it maybe afterwards. Now, unfortunately, Ryan has abandoned me here in Wisconsin for the warmer weather of Florida, which I promise you I'm not jealous of at all. So it will be just me presenting here to you today, but the information again has come from both of us. Now, the format for this comparison is going to start out with an in-depth look at the components between the two models. Then we're going to talk about the riding characteristics and the motor performance. And then finally, we're going to kind of sum everything up and tell you which bike is better for which rider. Now, if you prefer that information in written format, there will be a blog post link below, which is going to have all of the information that I'm kind of giving to you guys now in video form in more of a written format, as well as link down below. We're going to have links to both of these models. So if you do decide that you want the Lectric XP 3.0 or the Portola, please consider making a purchase after clicking a link down below. Any purchase made after clicking any link below is a free and easy way to help us making content like this and support us here at Ebike Escape. Thank you guys very much. Now let's start out with the component that I think most people are going to be interested in, and that's going to be the price. Now both models come in sub $1,000. Now that is for the standard range version, as both models are offered in a long range version. Now the standard range version for the models here, the Lectric XP 3.0 comes in at $999 and the Portola is offered at $995. And then the price disparity between the two models really comes out now, and that's the XP 3.0 with a 14 amp hour battery is offered at $1199, and the Portola with a 13.4 amp hour battery comes in at $1095. Ryan and I both recommend that you just, if you have the extra budget, go ahead and pick up the long range bike. Having that little bit extra battery capacity is just a nice extra insurance. Next up, we have some frame variations as well as some color differentiation between the two models. The XP 3.0 is offered in both a high step and step through model, whereas the Portola here is only offered in a step through frame model, but the step through availability on the Portola is a little bit lower than the step through as seen here on the XP 3.0. Next, let's talk about the colors. The XP 3.0 is offered in two very standard colors. You have a black and a white, black seen here, and they both have these blue accent colors around the bikes. Those are the Lectric colors. Then if you switch over to the Portola is offered in three different color options, which changes the entire color and look of the frame. Now, as we step away from the frame, color options, and price, the differences between the two models will become a lot more minute, and if you're just simply looking through a spec list, may not be as apparent to you. So we're going to go ahead and run through those in depth so that you're not getting maybe overwhelmed by just looking, oh, they look the same, or this one, or this one looks better for this reason. We're going to go through all those. Just stick with us. So let's start out with when you first receive your bike. That's where the first difference between the two models shows up, and that's going to be in the assembly needed before you can get out for your first ride. The Lectric XP 3.0 requires nothing more than being unfolded, air in the tires, run through your checklist, ready to go. Now the Ride1Up Portola takes a little bit more assembly on things like the stem before you can really get out and ride. So starting up here in the front, some other difference between the bikes, you get Chaoyang 20 by 3 inch tires on the Portola, and you get similar 20 by 3 inch, but you get Lectric branded tires on the XP 3.0. Get metal fenders on both models. The Portola sports a quick release front axle, so if you're changing a front tire, it's simply just to unclip, pull the wheel out, you're ready to go. Whereas the Lectric has a bolt-on front skewer so that you're not tempted to mess with the bike unless you, of course, get a flat tire. Then we have a difference in the forks between the two models. Both models sport a hydraulic front fork, with the Lectric receiving a little bit less travel than the Portola. Both sport a lockout and adjustment knob, and the Portola with its extra travel also gets a black stanchion, so you get a little bit different of a styling cue between the two. That's really one of the biggest differences I've noticed between the Ride1Up and the Lectric, is that the styling cue that the Portola takes is a little bit different, a little bit newer feeling than the Lectric at this point. Now, as we come up into the cockpit, both models, as they're folding bikes, sport folding stems. The folding mechanisms are slightly different, but both of them are completely capable of holding the bike together and unfolding easily for the end user for, say, transport. We'll go ahead and show those both in our favorite way to transport a bike at the end of this kind of component run through. But the stem on the XP 3.0 is adjustable for height, so you can really kind of lock in and adjust that cockpit for maybe the height of the rider. Now, both bikes sport a similar height range between the two models, but the XP 3.0 with some of its extra adjustability may be a bit more comfortable. And like I said, the Portola here sports no adjustment here on the stem for height. You're kind of at a fixed height for the handlebars. As we get up here into the cockpit, this is some of those smaller differences that I was mentioning before. We'll talk about the displays in a second, and you can definitely see the difference. But you're gonna get a locking grip on the Portola, whereas you get these nice ergonomic grips on both models, but the ergonomic grips on the XP 3.0 are not locking. You get, like I said, nice hydraulic disc brakes on both models. On the Lectric, you get this overhand thumb shifter from Shimano. This is a 7-speed shifter. And then over here on the Portola, you get what I like, which is gonna be this trigger below mounted 8-speed shifter on the Portola. So that's right, you get 8 gears on the Portola versus the 7 on the Lectric. Now, the displays is the next biggest difference between the two models. The display on the Lectric is a little bit larger and easier to read, whereas on the Ride1Up, it's a little bit smaller and located off to the side, not front and center, as well as has the 3 buttons built into it, whereas on the Lectric, the buttons are on this separate keypad, which is closer to where your thumb is sitting, so you can easily adjust your pedal assist levels while you're riding. Now, one thing that's not apparent about these displays when you're looking at maybe the size or just on a spec list is going to be that the advanced settings on the Lectric are maybe a little bit more robust, albeit a little bit harder to access, and you have to be a little bit more familiar with the programming and language that they use within the display. So you get into the advanced settings, simply hold the plus minus button, you get into the P settings, and there are about 20 something of them. You cycle through them by pushing the power up button once you're in here. There's 22 of them. Now, all of these P settings relate to some setting on the bike, maybe whether it's screen brightness, kilometers an hour, things like that. So you have to be, like I said, a little bit familiar with what you're changing and adjusting in there. On the Ride1Up, it's a little bit less robust as there's not as many things that you can modify. However, one nice thing about the Ride1Up is that if you wanted to change the class setting, you can very easily change which class you're in. So what that means, whether you want a class 1, class 2, or class 3 e-bike, both bikes are capable of all 3 classes, means that you can pedal well up into that 28 mile per hour range. But on the Ride1Up, you can easily adjust those by simply pressing the power and minus button at the same time. And on the display, you will be shown C3, which is going to be class 3, and they cycle 1 through 3. So you press and hold them again, now you're in C1, which means you do not have access to the throttle. And then you can go to class 2 and etc., go all the way up to class 3. Very quick and easy to do, helps you unlock those speeds and maybe adjust the bike to where you're riding.
And one other cool feature that I forgot to show, but thanks to the magic of editing I can show, is that the Portola has the ability to customize the motor power percentage in every pedal assist level, making it very easy to tune the pedal assist levels to your liking.
Now, one other big difference while we're up here in the cockpit is going to be the throttle type and actual location. So on the Portola, you get a left-hand thumb throttle, which is simply going to be this push-down button here, which to access the throttle, whereas on the Lectric, it's going to be a right-hand twist grip throttle. Now, that is going to come all down to personal preference. Some people prefer a thumb throttle, and some people simply prefer a twist grip throttle as they are easier to operate. Bringing you guys down here in close for these differences. On the Portola here, you get these plastic folding pedals. Nice that they fold and get out of the way for transport. Whereas on the Lectric here, they are these metal folding pedals. Let's go ahead and talk about these rear racks. Now, both of these rear racks are nicely welded to the frames, allows them to have a little bit more extra weight capacity. The Lectric here sports a little bit higher weight capacity at 150 pounds, and the Portola here sports a little bit lower of a weight capacity at about 130 pounds. The XP 3.0 sports a Thule Yup Maxi window here, so if you wanted to say mount a Yup seat, you can on the back here of the 3.0, whereas the Portola, they do have the Connect Plus system,
which is also a Thule Yup Maxi window.
They do have pannier bars here on the side, so you can mount some pannier bags nicely here, but overall the construction between the two racks is very similar.
And to go along with those rear racks, both brands offer various cargo carrying and accessory options, but this is definitely one place Lectric goes above and beyond, offering 30 plus accessories, allowing you to really accessorize and outfit your 3.0 to fit your needs.
Now, on the subject of rear racks, we have to talk about the difference in the rear tail lights. Now, the tail light on the Lectric XP 3.0 operates with the headlight, so when you turn the headlight on, it simply illuminates red, but it is not an actual working brake light as I pull the brake lever. However, on the Ride1Up bike here, when I pull the brake lever, the tail light will illuminate, and then if I turn the headlight on, it actuates as a running light, and then when I pull the brake light, it does illuminate a little bit brighter. Now, as we move down from the racks, this is where we're gonna find another pretty big difference between the two models. Each of these models sports a slightly similar but also different drivetrain. So the drivetrain on the XP 3.0 is a 7-speed Shimano drivetrain with a tourney derailleur and has a 11 to 28 tooth rear freewheel, and then it also sports a 52 tooth front chainring that is also double-sided to help stop, making sure you don't get like a pant leg or anything stuck in it. And the pedaling experience on the XP 3.0 is very nice, and thankfully it has that 11 tooth smallest chainring, which allows you to really apply extra leg pressure and power into some of those higher speeds. Now, the Portola, I think, is able to kind of exploit its newness to the market and has a 11 to 32 tooth rear drivetrain, but sports a 8-speed rear drivetrain and a slightly upgraded derailleur. Comes with an Altus rear derailleur, and as we saw in the cockpit, comes with a thumb shifter, a trigger shifter versus the overhand thumb shifter. I like the feel of a trigger shifter a lot more. Just feels more like a higher quality bike component. And then in the front here, we have a single-sided 48 tooth front chainring, still gonna provide protection on the outside, but only on one side. Now, as we move in from the drivetrain, we're greeted with probably the second most important component on an e-bike, and that's gonna be the rear motor. And now the motor on the Portola is listed as a 750 watt, 65 newton meters of torque rear motor, whereas the motor on the Lectric is listed as a 500 watt motor that we know is peaking well into 1,000 watts. Lectric publishes that information, but it's also only a 55 newton meters of torque motor. Now, a little bit of a spoiler, that is just the stats for these two motors on paper. They do perform a little bit different on the actual road, but we should talk about that here in a slightly later section. So now let's go ahead and pull out the batteries and show you where that differs on these two models. Starting out, we're gonna go ahead and remove the battery from the Portola. This is gonna come off very quickly to everyone out there. Battery removal on the Portola is a lot easier than it is on the Lectric, as the battery on the Portola is located right here on the top of the down tube. Take your keys, put them in, twist them towards the front of the bike and the battery, and you simply push this knob here on the back of the battery to pull up and out. It undoes the latch and the battery comes up and out. And the website is listed as a 13.4 amp hour battery, so this is the long range version. Both the Lectric and this Portola are the long range versions. And in the long range version is where the battery capacity difference is gonna come in, as well as price. The long range version of the Portola, like I said before, is $1095, whereas for the Lectric, it's about $100 more than that. But you get a 13.4 amp hour battery on the Portola, and on the Lectric, you get a full 14 amp hour battery. But outside of capacities, removal on the Portola is gonna be a lot easier. To get the battery back in, simply twist it, set it in on the bottom, and you let the battery drop in, twist the keys towards the back to lock it in, give it a pull. Now let me go ahead and switch over to the Lectric and show you what you have to do to remove that battery. And here we are at the Lectric. The battery is encased in this down tube in slightly more of a secure location. And to remove the battery, what you're gonna do is need to undo the latch here on the side, pull it to the side, pull it out, and use your knee, as I like to expose right there the bottom side of the battery. And I'm just gonna go ahead and flip this all the way around for you guys. And I'll kind of hold this up, and then you have your keys that go in on the underside, which are needed to turn the bike on and off. I like to push the battery in a little bit, twist the keys. There's a locking pin on the side. You're gonna twist them towards the back of the bike, or currently towards the camera, and that pin will retract. Pull your keys out, and there's this nice little handle here that pops out, and the battery slides nicely out of the frame. Like I said, very secure, and it has these nice little pads to stop it from rocking around in there. So it is nicely securely located in the frame, but it is a little bit more involved. We imagine most people are going to, on the Lectric, put your battery in and never take it out. But the Portola may win a little bit of brownie points for some people out there, as you can simply remove the battery without having to fold the bike up. And one other thing about the Lectric XP 3.0 that is kind of a hit or miss, some people like it, some people hate it, and that's gonna be that the keys do have to be in the bike to run, and they are located on the underside here of the down tube. And what I mean by that is that you can actually turn the battery off. The battery, everything will stay locked in the frame, but without that key in there, the bike will not turn on as there is no power going to the bike. So a little bit extra level of security with having your battery encased and the keys actually turn on and off the bike. Whereas on the Portola, the bike can be turned on if the batteries are in. Now, one other place where there are some slight differences between these two folded e-bikes is going to be when they are folded. And that's going to be that the dimensions on the Portola are slightly smaller than the Lectric, not by much. We'll put both of the dimensions on the screen now, and they both nicely fit into our tub. So if you're trying to fit these into maybe a small area on an RV or something of that nature, the dimensions are out there, but we like to transport them in a tub, and both of these bikes had no problem fitting into that tub. But it is worth noting that the Portola has a slightly shorter length overall, so it does have a slightly smaller dimension if you're looking for maybe the smallest bike you can get without maybe going to something such as a Brompton. And then one other thing that really helps the Portola stand out is that the Portola sports this really cool locking strap, and that's going to be located back here on the frame here. And so this little strap here clips onto this little snap and goes around the fork and holds the bike together. Whereas on the Lectric, you do not have that. You could obviously purchase something aftermarket, but it's very nice that the Ride1Up has it included and just allows you to transport it with a little bit more of an ease. Now, before we jump and talk about the hill climbing performance or riding characteristics of these two bikes, I just want to maybe touch on anything else super small that may be something that you should consider out there if you're looking at purchasing one of these two bikes, or maybe something that doesn't come across right just in maybe a chart. And so number one, this is going to be very small to some, but is very important to others, and that's going to be a lack of bottle cage bosses on the Lectric. There's really no place to mount a water bottle. There are these two located back here on the back of the seat stay, which is the common place for the electric lock to be mounted, but there are none on the down tube, whereas the Ride1Up Portola has these two nice ones located on the bottom of the seat tube. But a solution to that is going to be, shameless plug for our product here, is going to be this bike case ABC cage, which utilizes this strap mount to add bottle cage bosses. And this is our cage here that nicely ratchets down. You can fit anything from a small water bottle up to a Nalgene. And this is able to mount it to the frame here. And the nice thing is that it's quick release with Velcro. So even if you decide, I don't really like the placement here, you can mount it up here on the down tube over the battery and easily remove it to take your battery in and out. And then one other thing I want to touch on that really doesn't come across well when it's just kind of in a list form, that's going to be that both Ride1Up and Lectric are US-based companies. But one thing that's maybe going to set one out over the other, they both have phone numbers listed on their websites, emails that you can actually find, and phone numbers you can actually find very easily, and you can call and physically talk to somebody. However, Lectric is going to have a slightly larger customer service team out there, as they have sold so many bikes and they have so many people on staff that it is great. You can simply call somebody. I've physically been in that room and seen all of the people that they have employed there, and it's nice to see that they do have actual customer service reps you can call reliably. However, that does not take knocks against Ride1Up. Ride1Up also has a phone number, and they are easy to reach if you have any problems. Their team is just going to be a lot smaller, so maybe you're going to get a little bit more of a personalized support from Ride1Up. But again, both of them have access to the support, but there are some slight differences. Lectric is simply a bigger company than Ride1Up, but Ride1Up has been around for quite some time, and they have definitely stood the test of time, and they are always expanding. So is Lectric. Again, just hard to really pick one in that department, but it's just something worth noting that if you're picking between these two bikes, you cannot fault in that section. All right, no more hints, spoilers, little things like that. Let's talk about hill climbing performance and pedaling characteristics of these two bikes. On paper, it looks like the Portola should be more powerful and more capable, and the Lectric should not be as powerful and capable as it is with a 500 watt motor versus these 750 watt nominal motors between these two. And the Portola is actually not the more powerful between these two models. In our hill climb test with a 145-pound rider, which was Ryan, he tested both of these bikes, the Portola had a top speed of about 12 miles per hour, whereas the top speed for the Lectric XP 3.0 was 14 miles per hour. So quite a bit more, about 2 miles per hour more on the Lectric, and that's a pretty high top speed compared to other models that we've tested out there. It didn't even seem to really struggle to get up the hill, whereas the Portola, again, didn't seem to struggle to get up the hill, that just had a lower overall top speed. And then the actual riding characteristics between these two models, both bikes completely capable in Class 3 mode. being able to get up to 28 miles per hour, or if you turn them down, you're able to simply change the classing, change that top speed. But both bikes are capable of 28 miles per hour with relative ease. The Portola took a little bit more leg strength, obviously with that different gearing here in the rear, but you have that extra gearing, so it's kind of a little bit nicer of an experience because you have 8 gears versus 7, so you can maybe dial in for if you're looking for 15 miles an hour or something like that, you can simply get to that speed and hold it there. So the pedaling experience on the Lectric and the Ride1Up are both nice, but having that extra gear and that extra ability to kind of dial in the gearing is really nice on the Portola. And then it also should be restated here, being able to quickly adjust your classing from class 1 all the way up to class 3, super easy through the display without having to maybe mess with some settings that aren't as clearly labeled. On the Lectric, it's just kind of a nice ease and something that Ride1Up was able to just add that little extra level of polish on their bike. So which of these two folding e-bikes wins this duel and gets the E-Bike Escape stamp of approval? Well, it's gonna actually be both of them and for different reasons. So the XP 3.0 is gonna get our stamp of approval for being on its 3rd iteration, hopefully 4th coming out later this year, has UL certification, safety in mind, a Tully-up window mounted in the back, a very powerful motor, and comes from a company that has sold hundreds of thousands of e-bikes with very little issue, and has shown that over time they will treat the customer right. That's going to be the XP 3.0. Whereas on the flip side of that, you have the new kid on the block, the Ride1Up Portola, which gets some really nice comfort features. You get that easy to adjust display, the little strap on the rear rack to help hold everything together, maybe some slightly better choiced gearing, and other components that really kind of put the Ride1Up Portola slightly ahead of the XP 3.0. And on top of that, you even get Ride1Up styling, but it is from a slightly smaller company, but it does have a completely different characteristic and look versus the model. So really, it's gonna be up to you to make the decision on which of these two models is right for you. And if you do decide to purchase either of these two models, we always love out there if you could use any of our links down in the comments. Making a purchase after clicking any of those links is a free and easy way to help support us here at E-Bike Escape. It helps us continue to make content like this. So what do you think? Which of these bikes should we recommend? Which one do you recommend to family and friends out there? As well as what folding e-bike should we compare to one of these two models? What are you hoping to see from Lectric this year? Let us all know. Let's get a conversation started down in the comments below. And just to wrap everything up, I'm JT from E-Bike Escape. Ride safe, everyone, and I will catch you all in the next one.